In this video, we'll go over some of the built-in functions in C++. You should learn about these functions and start utilizing them in your programs. One of the functions that we have already seen is the power function. Let's start with that one. Let's say I want to find out 2 raised to the power of 4. So I can use the power function, cout POW. There is the base 2 and the exponent 4. 2 raised to the power of 4 and then end line. Right. The result here, basically what you would see, this is basically 2 raised to the power of 4. The answer should be 16 for us here. Also, C++ provides us with square root function. This is a new function, square root, SQRT, and then the number you want to find the square root of. Let's say square root of 9. And then at the end, I'm going to run this program. So square root of 9 basically will give you 3. So square root of 9 here will give you 3. Another function is absolute value function. Let's say we want to find the absolute value of, and the function is ABS, absolute value of -5, for example. That should give us the number 5. Another function, all the trig functions also are built in. Let's say you want to find the sine of pi over 2. I've already declared pi here as a constant. So pi over 2, there's pi divided by 2, end line. Sine of pi over 2 is 1. It's 90 degree. Pi over 2 is 90 degree. The angles should be entered in radian. Use angles in radian measure. So sine of basically a pi over 2 should give you 1, 90 degrees. This is really sine of 90 degrees, which is equal to 1. Cosine, tangent, cotangent, they're all in there. Then you would have the natural log. You would use the log function, log of 5, for example. We can take a look at what that will be, and that's basically ln, natural log of 5. That's what it's computing, whatever the value of it is. You also have exponentials like e to some power. You would say exponential, let's say exponential e to the power of 2, for example. This e to the power of 2 is really the irrational number e raised to the power of 2. That's what you're computing. Again, whatever that value will be, it will be printed out. But note that e, as I said, it's an irrational number, and it's approximately equal to 2.718, right? Now let's look at the max function. Let's write cout max of 3 and 5. So this particular function returns the maximum of 3 and 5. Obviously, in this case, it will be 5, end line. And notice that max is underlined in red. That means that the system doesn't understand what max represents. Max is in the header file algorithm. So make sure that you include the algorithm as a compiler directive. Now notice that the red line has disappeared. This function returns the maximum of the 2 numbers, returns the max of 3 and 5. Similarly, you have the same function for minimum. You can actually write out cout minimum of 3, 5, and it returns the smallest. The function returns the smallest of the 2 numbers. That takes care of that. You also have the ceiling function. Let's say I want to compute the ceiling of 2.2. And what does the ceiling do? The ceiling returns the smallest integer larger than or equal to 2.2. The smallest integer that's larger than or equal to 2.2. In this case, that integer will be 3. And then you also have the function floor. In this case, let's say floor of 2.9. And let's have an end line here. And what about the floor? Floor returns the largest integer smaller than or equal, in this case, to equal to the number 2.9. So the largest integer that's smaller or equal to 2.9 would be 2. So here the return answer should be 2. Notice that ceiling and floor, it's different than rounding. If we were going to round 2.2, this would have been 2, but actually ceiling will give you 3. And if we were going to round 2.9, that would have been 3, but the floor will give you 2. We can actually place the system pause here. And we are done. We'll run this and take a look at the output. So if you look at the output, power 2 to the power of 4 is 16, that's correct. Square root of 9 is 3, that's correct. Absolute value of -5 is 5. Sine of pi over 2 is 1. Natural log of 5 is 1.609 and so forth. Exponential e to the power of 2 is equal to 7.38 something. Max of 3 and 5 is 5. Min of 3, 5 is 3. And notice the ceiling and floor. The ceiling of 2.2 is 3 and the floor of 2.9 is 2.